Hello guys, you're welcome to today's class. I remain WAEC, and these classes have been brought to you by Isaac Humanitarian Foundation. They are free of charge. All you need to do is just to go to our website www.isaachumanitarianfoundation, visit Facebook Isaac Humanitarian Foundation, Instagram at Isaac Humanitarian Foundation, and YouTube Isaac Humanitarian Foundation. Our videos are on all of these platforms, and remember, the videos are free of charge. Your classes are free for you to download. All you need to do is to get your data, and of course we'll be doing our data for those that are keeping up with the different classes and answering our questions. All you need to do is just to pay attention to these classes, because as soon as the lockdown or as soon as the ban on the gathering of students is actually lifted, your different exams will commence, so you have limited time to prepare. Alright, let's go to today's class. Now we're going to be studying principles of government. Principles of government. Now remember, in our previous classes we studied concepts of government, and I told you that concepts of government are general ideas that serve as a starting point in the study of government. The ideas that serve as a foundation for us when we want to study the subject matter government. Now, principles of government have some level of relationship with concepts of government. However, with principles of government, they serve as guidelines. They serve as templates for us to properly understand why government personnel behave the way they do. Principles of government are guidelines that government follow in the discharge of their duty. And principles of government will include the rule of law, human rights, separation of power and its innate checks and balances, centralization, decentralization, and the likes. In today's class, we're going to be studying the principle of government known as the rule of law. Now, the rule of law can be traced back to the writings of the Greek philosopher known as Aristotle. Now, Aristotle said that which of the following would be better? Is it a king that rules with discretion, or a king that rules with laws? Which of these kings will you prefer to rule you? Discretion means your whims, when you are acting according to your judgment, when there is no boundaries to the way you act. Discretion. For instance, I give you $1,000 and I say, help me get minerals, donuts, and table water. And then you ask me, how many donuts, how many minerals? And I tell you, use your discretion. I mean, use your judgment. So when Aristotle asked, which of these kings will you prefer to rule you? The one that uses discretion. He meant the one that uses his own judgment without being checked by what? Laws. Or the one that is checked by laws. See, pay attention. If a king rules you by discretion, you'll be at the mercy of the king's whims. And really, James Madison, the fourth president of the United States, says that we need to fear those that hold power. Lord Acton said, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So when you allow your king rule you with discretion, you need to be very, very scared for your life, because your king has powers, and powers have corrupted him to the tune that he can use these powers against what is normal. Now, is it not better for you to have a king that rules with laws? Because even when the king has powers to use inordinately, but because of the laws that guide the powers of the king will ensure that these powers are used appropriately. So it is better to have a king that rules with what? Laws. Than a king that rules with what? Discretion. Are you following me? Now, Aristotle can be said to be the political scientist that gave knowledge, that gave the foundation to the study of the rule of law. But in modern times, when we hear the concept or the principle of the rule of law, what comes to mind is a man called Albert Van Dicey. Albert Van Dicey is popularly known as A.V. Dicey. And in 1885, in the year 1885, Albert Van Dicey authored a book referred to as or entitled An Introduction to the Law of the Study of the Constitution. An introduction to the law of the study of the Constitution. In this book, which is fondly referred to as the law of the Constitution, Albert Van Dicey portrays three major principles out of the principle of the rule of law. There are three major tangible things that must be present for us to say that the rule of law is being practiced. Now, firstly, Albert Van Dicey or A.V. Dicey said that when the law or when people in a community are all equal, when everyone has, irrespective of your status, whether you are rich or poor, tall or short, fair, and is white or black, but when everyone is equal under the laws of the land, irrespective of other things that make them unequal, then it is valid to say there is the what? Rule of law. So the first principle of the rule of law is the principle of equality. Under the rule of law, everyone is equal. No one is above any other person. Now, in a society where we have equality, we can call that society an egalitarian society. An egalitarian society is a society where everyone is what? Equal. Are you following me? Now, the second principle, according to A.V. Dicey, is the principle of impartiality. The principle of impartiality states that the law must be fair in its dealings. The law must not be prejudicial in favor of anyone. The law must put everyone on an equal pedestal. Now, so because of the equality that exists between people, the law will recognize that it is not supposed to treat anyone fairly or unfairly. It is supposed to treat everyone as though we were all what? Equal. That is the reason for the principle of what? Impartiality. Under the rule of law, the system must be what? Impartial. Now, so the second principle is what? Impartiality. Now, the third principle of the rule of law states that no one is above the law. That is, the judgment of judges in the law courts cannot be dwarfed by other judgments. That is, it is only the judgment of judges on an issue that can be valid. Are you following me? For instance, if a king and his subjects go to court, irrespective of the status of the king, when the court gives his judgment, whether the judgment is not according to the expectations of the king cannot give his own judgment that will go contrary to the judgment of the court. Hence, the rule of law is supreme. Hence, the rule of law is what? Supreme. We have from supreme the principle of the rule of law known as supremacy. The number one principle of the rule of law is what? Equality. Everyone is equal under the law. The number two principle is impartiality. The law is fair. The law is what? Fair. The law does not prejudge. To prejudge means to be prejudicial. The law, before it takes its course, must first examine the evidence before it. Are you following me? Under impartiality, the process of the court must be seen by others to be fair. Firstly, the process of the court must be fair. That is, the court must follow due process in its hearings, and this due process cannot be done in the confines of a secret place, but must be done in the open for others to see that indeed the law has taken its what? Course, following due process. Number two, the law is what? Impartiality. Then number three, nobody is above the law. The highest judgment of any case is the judgment rendered by a court of law. Are you following me? For instance, if a lower court gives a judgment, now if you want to challenge the judgment of the lower court on an issue, you cannot go and seek the judgment of an Oba. Let us come to the south or the southwest. The king. You cannot seek the judgment of a king to go contrary to the judgment of a court of law. Even though in this part of the world we respect constituted traditional authority, but the law is supreme. The only way you can seek redress, for instance, the court has given a judgment and you think that this judgment was unfair. Now, you cannot go to another means to seek redress. You must go to the same process, but a higher court now. For instance, we have a judgment in a magistrate court. You cannot go to a babalawo, a chief priest, to give you his own judgment. You will now go to a higher court, the Court of Appeal. Now, if the Court of Appeal still gives a judgment and you think that the judgment of the Court of Appeal is not in favor to your own plight, even though you believe that your evidence is sufficient enough for you to win that case, you will now go to the Supreme Court. In Nigeria, the Supreme Court is the highest court of appeal. Now, when the Supreme Court gives its judgment on an issue, that is final. That judgment cannot be revoked. Are you following me? Now, before 1963, the highest court of appeal in Nigeria was the British Privy Council. Now, the British Privy Council is a council of advisors to the sovereign of Britain. The sovereign of the United Kingdom since 1952 has been Queen Elizabeth II. Now, a council of advisors who advise Queen Elizabeth, who is currently the Queen or the monarch of England, is referred to as the British Privy Council. And this council in London was the highest court of appeal in Nigeria, even when Nigeria gained its independence in 1960. So it can be said that even though Nigeria was independent from 1960, Nigeria was only independent on paper, but in reality, we lacked independence. Our judicial system was still dependent on our colonial master, Britain. Now, the British Privy Council relinquished its position to the Supreme Court of Nigeria when Nigeria became a republic. The opposite of a republic is monarchy. Now, even though Nigeria gained independence in 1960, the Queen of England still had considerable influence in Nigeria because the Queen of England was represented by the President or the Governor General of Nigeria. The first indigenous Governor General of Nigeria, that is, the first Nigerian to be Governor General of Nigeria, is Nnamdi Azikiwe. Before Nnamdi Azikiwe was Governor General of Nigeria, the last British Governor General of Nigeria was a man called James Robertson. Now, the first Governor General of Nigeria from 1900 was what? Lord Lugard. Lord Frederick Lugard. He got married to a woman called Flora Shaw. It was this woman that named Nigeria in the London Times Nigeria. Are you following me? Now, in 1963, the highest court of appeal in Nigeria moved from the British Privy Council to a Supreme Court. Till date, the judgment that cannot be revoked on any case must come from the what? Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is higher than any authority. Are you following me? Now, I will recap. There are three principles of the rule of law: equality, impartiality, and what? Supremacy. Are we together? Now, there are also other principles or other features of the rule of law. The feature of redress. To redress means that even though there's a judgment has been passed on a case that you took to the court, but if you feel that this judgment was passed in an inordinate manner, you can go to a higher court to seek redress, like I just said, under the principle of impartiality. Are you following me? Now, under the principle of impartiality, even though you commit an offense against the number one man or number one citizen in your country, you are not the culprit. You can never be called the culprit. The culprit means that you have been found guilty. You are not guilty. You are only an accused. Under the eyes of the law is not impartial. It is until the court has passed its judgment, after considering evidence from you and from the person accusing you, that you can now be called the culprit if found what? Guilty. Now, the police, remember, I did not say police, I said what? Police. Now, the police cannot detain you for more than 24 hours without charging your case to what? To court. Well, what we witness in today's world is that people spend months in the police custody even without taking their cases to court. That is against the tenets of the what? The rule of law. Are you following me? Now, we have several things. Although the rule of law can be seen as very strong, the rule of law, as we can see, cannot be trampled on, cannot be subdued. But there are several things in our society that act against the rule of law or that reduce the potency or the powers of the what? Rule of law. Are you following me? Now, we will consider the limitations to the rule of law. The next in line is limitations to the rule of law. Now, number one limitation to the rule of law is what we call immunity. Number one, immunity. Now, when we say you are immune, it means that you have shielded yourself from something. For instance, we say that guy is immune of Ebola. It means that guy cannot contract Ebola. So now, if we say someone is immune from the laws of the land, it means that person is above the laws of the land. That person is not under or cannot be subdued by the laws of the land. Now, Section 308 of Nigeria's Constitution states that the president, the vice president, governors and deputy governors, insofar as they remain in these positions, they cannot be taken to a criminal or civil court, even though they commit an offense that under normal circumstances can land them in jail. But because the person is president of Nigeria, vice president of Nigeria, governor of one of the 36 states of Nigeria, or deputy governor of one of the 36 states of Nigeria, that person has immunity from the civil or or criminal court. This means that, of course, some people are above the law. If the president of Nigeria enjoys immunity from Nigeria's law, it means that he is not equal to every other person in Nigeria. This is a limitation to the rule of law. Other individuals that enjoy immunity includes diplomats, those that represent their countries in other countries. Now, every country of the world has what we call embassies or high commissions, as the case may be. Now, Nigeria has an office in almost the 195 states in the world, in almost all of these states, if not all of these states. Now, embassies. People that work in embassies are called diplomats. And in Nigeria, for instance, we have several diplomats working for us in the embassies of Nigeria in other countries. Are you following me? Now, these diplomats who are Nigerians but living in Nigeria's office in other countries, representing Nigeria in other countries, cannot be tried under the laws of these other countries. For instance, let us assume I am a diplomat of Nigeria in the embassy of Russia. Now, if I were to be a diplomat of Nigeria in, let's say, Canada, that embassy, that office of Nigeria in Canada, is not called an embassy, it is called High Commission. Now, the office of Nigeria in any country that was colonized by Britain, except the United States of America, any country that was colonized by Britain, or all the countries that were colonized by Britain, their offices in their respective countries are not called embassies, they are called high commissions. Are you with me? So now, Canada is an ex-colony of Britain. Ghana is an ex-colony of Britain. There were 4 countries that were colonized by Britain in West Africa: Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and the Gambia. That country is never called Gambia, it's called what? The Gambia. Capital of Nigeria is Abuja, capital of Ghana is Accra, capital of Sierra Leone is Freetown, and capital of the Gambia is Banjul. Now, Nigeria's foreign offices in all of these countries are not embassies, they are what? High commissions. Are you with me? Now, but Nigeria's office in countries that were not colonized by Britain are what? Embassies. Now, the head of an embassy is called an ambassador. Are you with me? So, an ambassador heads what? An embassy. But the head of a high commission is not called an ambassador, he is called a high commissioner. Are we together? Now, Nigerians who work in either embassies of countries not colonized by Britain or in high commissions in countries colonized by Britain cannot be tried under the laws of these countries. Even if they commit offenses that warrants jail terms, they cannot be taken to court because they have immunity under the laws of the countries in which they work. Are we together? Now, if a Nigerian diplomat working for Nigeria in Russia kills an individual in Russia, it cannot be taken to court in Russia. What the Russian authorities will do is to grant him what they call persona non grata. Again, persona non grata. When the Nigerian diplomat is granted persona non grata, is now repatriated to Nigeria. It is the Nigerian government that now has the right to take him to what? Court. He is immune from the laws of his host country. But the host country can repatriate him back to his own country and then advise the home country to charge him to what? Court. Are we together? Now, the number one thing that limits the powers of the rule of law is what? Immunity. Number two. Number two, military rule. Military regimes do not work with the constitution. As soon as a military regime assumes political power, the first thing they do is to disband the constitution. Now, military regimes work with decrees and edicts. The federal military government in Nigeria, they rule with what? Decrees. While the state military governments in Nigeria rule with what? Edicts. They don't rule with laws. And of course, we know that the body of laws that guide the operation of a state, the backbone of the rule of law, is the existence of the constitution. But when the military comes into power, they remove the constitution. Hence, the rule of law does not have strength to rule like it does in a democratic setting. Are we together? Now, number three limitation to the rule of law is what we choose to call ignorance. Ignorance is to lack information. And because most of us lack information, we are unable to challenge our authorities when they trample on our fundamental human rights. When they rule against the constitution, we cannot challenge them because we don't even know our rights. Ignorance is one major failure or one major problem or one major factor that limits the powers of the rule of law. Ignorance. Number three, poverty. See, poverty has eaten so deep into the system of Nigeria like a cankerworm. Now, Nigeria, unfortunately, ranks as one of the first four failed states in the world. Nigeria has a large number of people living below the poverty mark, which is $1 per day. And if an individual in Nigeria, for instance, that does not even have money to provide staple diet, is now falsely accused of an offense, he doesn't have money to get a good lawyer to defend him in the court of law. Now, many Nigerians go into crime irrespective of what the rule of law states, because without crime, they cannot survive. Poverty limits our ability to, first of all, know our rights. It also limits our ability to challenge infringements on our rights. Are we together? I would have loved to continue, but unfortunately, we are pressed by time and we have come to the end of this class. I'll see you again in the next topic. Thank you very much.